Welcome back to the channel. I'm Lara and today we're going to talk about Netflix The Witcher. Because last week was The WitcherCon. They talked about the video games, but they also talked about the series. And I'm actually going to talk about both of them. So it's great. Netflix The Witcher has been the fictional and fantasy argument since the series premiered in 2019. Half of the audience are great fans of the series, but the other half despises it. I'm not going to talk about if the series is good or if the series is bad, even though I will say that if they made a WitcherCon and they talked about the series there, they are making some good points, I guess. However, as said, I'm not going to talk about that because you have lots of videos on the topic on YouTube and lots of articles, so I will take a different perspective. I am personally going to focus on something a bit more different. I will be defending that the series was not mainly inspired by the books, but they got the inspiration from the games instead. Of course, they share the same story because it comes from the same book, but the visual concepts and the references and how it was shot, well, I will say that it comes from the video games. First thing first, some disclaimers. I haven't played the video games. I'm not a really gamer person, so I haven't played the video games, but I will be complementing the knowledge that I have from filmmaking and from watching the series with the knowledge that I have of the video game industry as a whole. Besides, I've seen the creators talk about the game and I've also seen a lot of gameplays to be able to talk about this. So yeah, however, if I say something wrong, well, you can let me know as well and we can discuss that in the comment section. I will tell you, I really want to talk with you about this. And yeah, of course, I've taken some links to get some information about the topics and the series as well, so I will be leaving those ones in the box, in the information box is what it's called, I think so. So you can check them out as well. With no further ado, let's get to it. The series wasn't the first adaptation of Andrzej Sapkowski stories because, of course, the games came out before. So it's the second adaptation of the story. Well, there was a film. I think it was a North European film because I don't really know. I think it was Polish because I think that's where the author is, but I'm not really sure about that. But it wasn't really famous, so I will not be taking that into this essay, okay? However, it's difficult to work with literature when we plan an adaptation. And having to deal with video games as well, yeah, it's like level 10 out of 10 of difficulty, so in this case, you don't have to please your own audience, you have to please three audiences. The one of the games, the one of the books, and the ones that you're going to create in the new adaptation, in this case, filmmakers or film lovers. Like, I really want to make this clear. It's really difficult what they did here, but I think the series was a smart move. They took the story from the books, but they took the resources, the visual resources from the video games. So everyone would be pleased. With Geralt of Rivia, along came this. Maybe you've seen this interview where Lauren Hisrich talks about how they took the idea and they went to the original material, to the books. They went and took the ideas from there to make the series. Yes, but I don't really care what she said, even if she's the showrunner, because it's clearly that they took them from the games as well. I really couldn't stop thinking about that, and I'm not the only one. Matthew Gold on Time magazine said, Netflix The Witcher shares its tone, aesthetics and story beats with the video game series more than the books. The show's plot may be ripped from the novels, but it feels comes straight from the video game. You can agree or disagree with this perspective, but I see that the way the series is organized comes straight from the video games. It's important to admit that the series doesn't behave in the same way with the three main characters, with Geralt, Ciri and Yennefer, because even if they share screen time together, their plots and their lines and their beats go completely different. However, I will focus on Geralt as he's the Witcher, I mean like the proper main character, and because the video game you follow Geralt. I know in The Witcher 3 you can follow and be Ciri for a moment, for some moments, but mainly The Witcher is about, you know, the Witcher, like the Witcher, Geralt of Rivia.
You smell of death and destiny, heroics and heartbreak.
It's onion.
Right, yeah.
One of the very first things that I noticed was how the chapters, how the episodes are introduced, how they start, how they present the action that is going to happen. Every time the show starts, we cannot expect anything. Maybe it was 5 months from the previous chapter, maybe it's right the next day, or maybe half a decade has passed by.
Hello. What's it been? Months? Years? What is time anyway?
Even Community, it's a lie. It's not true for Geralt, because his timeline looks quicker than the one of Yennefer and the one of Ciri. If we analyze his appearances, they share more similarities to missions on a video games than to actual TV show episodes. The biggest example is at the beginning of episode 4, where one of the villagers tells us how the last fight involving Geralt and a monster went.
I tell you no lie. It swallowed the whole village, it did. Not a bone to be found. Oh, don't give me that look, shitling. That's why we had to call him the White Wolf. And he stood in the middle of that frozen lake like he knew it was coming for him. The ice cracked open and the Selkie shot out. Oh, you never seen one. But it'd take down a ship with its cavernous mouth full of devil's teeth. And it swallowed that Witcher whole.
Oh, this is brilliant.
Oh, sorry. It's just Geralt's usually so stingy with the details. And then what happened?
He died?
He's fine.
Look, I was there. I saw it with my own...
See?
What's that stench?
Selkie more guts. Had to get it from the inside. I'll take what I'm owed.
Toss a coin to your Witcher, oh valley of plenty. Whoa. Toss a coin to your Witcher, a friend of humanity.
I must say that this is one of my favorite scenes on TV shows ever. And I was really happy that they talk about it in the WitcherCon. Like, it wasn't supposed to be like that. They were going to show the fight, but at the end they didn't have the budget or the time to film it, so they scratched this script and read it like that. So I thought it was amazing. I would see that scene only for pleasure. Do you have a scene like that? Anyways, back to the scene, I find it really particular. Because they just resolve the mission and Jaskier is already telling him the next one as a favor. But the importance doesn't lie on Geralt, but the story. Even though he has a great development, he doesn't hold a strong main character feel as we see on other series. If Geralt doesn't know something, you're not going to know it either. It's like a video game, you know the things when you leave them. Because Geralt doesn't really talk, so that's a reason why that happens as well. I think it's nice and I think it's great that you share the same perspective, that Geralt and the audience are one person and they know exactly the same. You know something when he knows it, not before, not later. In this section, I thought we could hold hands and walk over all the resources and visual elements that they use to make the film look like a video game.
With masterful deceit, broke down my loot.
The first thing to comment, I think it should be the introduction of the character, which happens to be the introduction of the series as well. The very first episode shows a fight, but if you notice, it's the most fantasy and blurry one we're going to watch. Don't tell me it's not like a cinematic trailer for a video game. I can compare it to the trailers and the teasers of Diablo and many others. And those ones didn't came that long ago. For me, it feels just the same. Even though it's recorded in camera, it uses CGI, and for me, the feel it's the same. Even the ones of Dead by Daylight, I think I see a lot of things, a lot of similarities. They come together for me. They really do.
Fight the mighty horde that bashes and
Then, as he is also our main character, couldn't stop thinking about the field curvature and the distortion that we see around his shots. I've read that it's something common that Netflix does with their lenses, but they say they use it in You, and I've seen You, and I didn't notice at all that You has that kind of effect. As a user of Reddit points out, I figured out it's a choice they make. They choose to use that type of lenses. But however, we tend to see it more in the scenes of Geralt rather than all scenes. So I guess it's the choice of making his scenes more of a fantasy feel, once again.
and so cried the Witcher. He can't be bleeding.
Another big point is the actual shots they use in production when they were filming. For example, there aren't many close-ups of characters. The shortest ones that we see are like medium close shots, kind of a thing, completely opposite to most shows and films. Even in conversations, we as filmmakers use the shot and the reverse shot to show how one speaks to the other one, but in The Witcher we don't see them as often. We use them as a rule. We don't really have to use them in all the conversations, but mostly we do, because it's convenient. However, in The Witcher there's only a few of those ones and they don't last too long. Which brings us back to the video game. They keep distance from the action, like you would do in a video game. In games you need to present everything from farther because it needs to fit on your side. Actually, in these particular games from The Witcher, everything is planned to never change sides, so you see everything happening in front of you. You interact with it, but you don't get into it. So they even use that in conversations. What the directors did was using one wide shot to bring everyone from the conversation in and speaking. There are a lot of group shots or two shots for framing Geralt and Jaskier or different people from the tavern, so they can speak without a shot and a reverse shot. Even if the ones that we get solos, they are mostly centered and focused only in a character. Like the camera is right here, like you're watching me right now. The camera is here, you see me and you see me like this, you don't see me like this, as many series would do. It is exactly what you would have done in a video game. Again, in this type of shots, you look at the front. You don't need to work on the details of a reverse shot that you can see the shoulder of someone that is not important to you or to the story.
He's a friend of humanity, so give him the rest.
And the last thing I will say about this and about everything in this topic is that, well, they use frames, they use shots from a tilt, from perspectives that what they make is, how would I say it? They preserve the truth or the intentions of a character. High and low angles are used mainly on games because they don't really need to follow the rules of cinema and they need to keep distance. But as the show tries to emulate this, there are some shots that I would say they are not from cinema or not used as much on cinema but on video games. They try to emulate them, even if it's cinema and they need to follow some rules, of course. Let's not forget that. But there's one fight, the one of the Striga, who always gets me because it is literally frame by frame the same one of the game. Well, you can see it by yourselves. I think Netflix aimed to win over all the audiences, the ones of the books, the ones of the games, and the ones of actual cinema. And I think they did it quite right. That was everything I had to say, but I hope we can come back here on the 17th of December and talk about the season 2 and say how amazing it was. because I'm looking forward to see what they have to tell us, because I think it's going to be pretty different than the first season. So yeah, I don't know. However, I would love to know what you think, your thoughts on this, and you can, of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Instagram, and leave comments, because I would really appreciate it. That's it. See you in the next video next week. Bye bye.
Toss a coin to your witcher, O Valley of Plenty, O Valley of Plenty, oh. Toss a coin to your witcher, O Valley of Plenty.